This is Dave from Iron Blackbird Cycles. Today we're putting a couple of new fuel injectors into a deuce, and I like to take just a little bit of oil, rub on these O-rings before we try to slide these in, just for the simple fact of that way it doesn't push the O-rings out of the way. This is sets over the top of the manifold, and this is where the top of your fuel injectors go. The easy way to remember this is those wires plug in from the top. Slide these injectors in. Don't push. There's a slot right there. You got this keeper ring that slides over this piece right here. And it's going to slide into those two slots on those injectors. Now we've got it locked in. It's got the injectors kept in. When we put this plate back on, right here, for the fuel line, that blocks those two tabs so this can't slide back out. So now these are ready to go into the manifold, and we'll get that filmed in a minute for you. So this is a manifold. These are the two injectors we installed into this. They pop down in here. You got to pull this clip back a little bit, work them in, get them straightened back out, and pop that clip back in. There's also two screws on the back side of this that are going to clamp this down and hold it in place. Now that we've got all this done, it's ready for the fuel line. There's a keeper and a bolt that will go on this. I don't want to put it on yet because I have to install it from the other side. Now, we've got two intake valve seals, which I suspect was what was wrong with this bike in the first place. This bike had an issue of popping to the carburetor, a few other just not running well, and it seemed to be because of an intake leak. And we're replacing these two seals. And in order to do that, we've got to have the two manifold rings. It's right here. Here's the old seal. These two manifold rings are going to go on like this. This slot facing to the back of the manifold, because we're going to put bolts in back here that those slots are going to set in. Once you get that ring on, there's a bevel on these seals. You're going to want to stretch this seal around just like that, and it's going to hold that in place for you. We're going to do the same thing to the other side. And if that was our problem, an intake leak causing it to not run good, that's going to be that's going to be our fix. Now, we're going to pull this up out of the way for the moment. On the back side of these flanges, we're going to put 2 of the screws in and just start them, because that's what these grooves are for. Once we get the manifold stuck back in there, those grooves will set on those two, and then we can start these front two. So we're just gonna get these started. Leave as much room as you can, but you want them in there good. Get like a thread and a half or so screwed in. Once those are screwed in, that's one of the manifold wires, that's the other manifold wire. The way these plug in, you can just snap them on. In order to take them off, you have to push this ring to release that, but they'll just snap back on. Oh. Need to get it in there first. And of course, something wants to fight us all the time. Now those two are plugged back in. Now we've got one more plug, two more plugs. One's gonna go down here, one's gonna go up here. But I'm gonna go ahead and get this manifold in first. That one's on. Might have to turn these a little bit. That one's on. Now those are back in. And here's where we get to the fun part. Getting these front two started. So you got to be able to push that up into place, and you got to be able to start this bolt in the right direction. If you don't get it just right, you will mess up those threads on that head, and that is the last thing you want to do. Normally you would do this without the throttle body on the manifolds, but I don't want to get into breaking that seal. It could turn out to be not the best idea. So after a little bit of readjusting, we have got these two fronts in. And I'm gonna snug these pretty good because we know we got the back bolts lined up. Hillbilly coming out again. So we got the fronts back in. Now we're gonna come around to the back. We're gonna get the fuel line in, get the keeper on, tighten up the back intake bolts, and we're ready to put this air cleaner back on and try this thing and see if she's gonna run right. In your wiring, you can find a pigtail, one that has 2 and one that has 3. You can't plug these in the wrong way, so you just put them back where they were. If you don't remember, it's kind of self-explanatory because you can see one's a lot bigger than the other one, and you're not going to get the big one in the small one or the small one in the big one. 3 wires, this one is it. That one goes back into the top there. This one goes in this one. Make sure they snap in. And this one, small 3 wire, goes in right there. Okay, so we're all plugged back in. So we're ready to put the air cleaner on and put the tank back on and test ride this thing. We'll be back in just a few minutes getting the rest of the air cleaner together. We're gonna try to do this without getting in your way too much, but it's probably a given we're going to. Now, the way these air cleaners work is you got this plate for the backing plate. Your drop one of those. This is going to go through this plate, through this. Same on the other side. And we're going to start these. I would suggest starting all your screws because all this stuff is kind of just fits how it fits. So you're going to want to get most of your stuff in there most of the way. So you can get everything else to line up, and then you can go back in and tighten everything. So what I'm doing right now, these are the head breathers. What they do is they breathe, they vent the crankcase over to here and into the air cleaner. So we're that far along. Usually like to try to get these in. And the gasket is good on the back side, so we're not going to break that seal and put another gasket in. And this backing plate will only bolt up one way. These three are kind of offset enough that you can't put this backing plate on any other way than the way it goes. I find this kind of stuff all the time. So these are countersunk, so they set back in that, and the air cleaner goes across them and seals. Let me get a Torx handle. Seriously? There we go. Over here, let's tighten up these breather bolts. And we're good there. So I'm gonna grab a wrench for these, give these a snug, and we can put the air cleaner on it. And these are these are called standoffs, carburetor standoffs, whatever you want to call them. What that is, they bolt this backing plate to the carb, seal up in between here and the carb so you don't get any air leaks. And then your air cleaner is going to set on most likely close to words up. And we need those two screws. Somebody's put a regular bolt in one of them, which is fine. Not gonna hurt nothing. No air passages in these. This just holds the air cleaner on and seals it up tight against the back of the plate there. Now, if this was a carburetor model, I probably wouldn't put this on yet, because when we put the tank back on, I want to see the fuel get into the carburetor. However, it is not a carburetor model. It is a fuel injected model. So you're really not going to see it anyway, unless you had a flashlight and you're really paying attention down there. But I get the feeling this will work just fine as soon as we get it all back together. Don't over tighten these. All you'll do is crush that. Just snug them up good. That's all you need to do. Not 3/8. This is a 5/16 bolt. There again, you're only tightening into that aluminum air cleaner, so don't over tighten that. Just tighten it enough to keep it tight. If you want to, put a little blue Loctite on it. So we've got the fuel line pushed in, the keeper put on, bolt back in. Now the fuel line's back on. It's just much easier to do it this way than it is try to weasel all that through. This is the top motor mount clamp, and it's gonna have to go back on now. And we also have the wire for the horn, ground wire for the horn. It's gonna set right there. Two bolts in the top there are the heads. And the main motor mount bolt for the top of the motor mount. You can get it started before we get everything. I try to get everything started before I do any tightening of any bolts, because it's just gonna cause you some extra heartache if you get something tightened down and can't get the others started. So I sprayed a little bit of knocker loose on these just to get the just gonna snug those a little bit and make sure these are in good. In case you hadn't wondered, in order to get to these bolts on these manifolds, to pull them without having to cut off Allen wrenches and everything else, Harley makes a special tool. It's got a ball end on this short so you can get in there and get up against the manifold and tighten or loosen those bolts. Most tool truck guys carry these, so you can talk to your Snap-on or Cornwell or Mac Tools guy and see if they can get these for you. If not, you can order them. I recommend this company. I'm sure China makes a knockoff. The problem with the cheap ones is these bust loose, these pop out, and you lose them 80% of the time, and then you got a worthless deal. So I would search out quality ones of these. They make this one. Okay, so the horn's tightened now. Fuel line's up here where we can get it on the tank now. Let's go ahead and reconnect spark plug wires now. Twin cam plug wires are basically, this is a single fire unit. The top part of the coil is going to go to the back of the back cylinder, bottom part of the coil, front cylinder. These plug wires we're make sure when you push them into the coil that the actual plug wire goes into the coil and snaps in. And next we're ready to put the tank on this.